All right, so we're up here in Wayne County, Iowa. This is our 98-acre farm. Been doing a bunch of work to it this year. Um, this Wayne County is interesting because it kind of sits. It's kind of right on the fringe of where stuff to the east feels more like that Midwest, Illinois-ish vibe, and as you transition a little bit west to here, it starts feeling more like Western, lots of cedars and more open and stuff. And Wayne County kind of sits right on the border of that, so you get these aspects of Midwest farm country, and you also get these aspects like all these cedars of Western. So it's literally, we were just talking when we came in here, it's one of the prettiest or sexiest deer looking areas in the state, and we've turkey hunted here. It's world class turkey hunting. And yeah, there's been a ton of work done, piles of beans, little food plots everywhere, and just like this setup we're standing in here, a green to grain pinch, the most obvious tree of all time for a tree stand, which we'll show you. But this farm's got little traps like this kind of all over the place. It's an unbelievable piece.
Probably one of the most impressive cedar thickets I've seen, like right behind us here and on this hillside. So this little plot sandwiched in between two cedar thickets. And like you said, it pinches through here into grain. We've never had any food on this farm before. And this year, everything kind of came together with a bunch of standing beans. I think we got 12 acres of beans that are going to be left standing. We're not cutting any of them. And we have 3 different green plots that are all in turnips and brassicas and rye. And we've got them strategically kind of placed around the farm for some early season stuff. And we actually put a trail system in here that comes from a little hidden clover plot in the bottom, parallels the creek and pops up and crosses the back of this plot and then connects this plot to that plot. So when these bucks get cruising during the rut, we've got pictures of them using that bottom down there quite often. And so what we did is we just made it easy to get them from that bottom to this other hunting spot up here in the corner. So we've done quite a bit of work. We got a feeder in here now too. We had great pictures last year, a really big deer that we're still kind of waiting to show up. The neighbor found his sheds, and we got one glimpse of him in the bottom in clover. So, I mean, we're just pretty excited about how far this farm's come. And the next step is going to be hang a ladder in the tree of death right there, and pull a couple boxes in here and just start loading it with cameras and see what happens.
Farm like this, it'd be nice to have boxes with the jack stands or whatever that are super portable and move them, because I could see where, you might, in October, you might pop that blind, here to help contain scent a little bit or whatever in the edge of the cedars and have a little goat path out the back. But then late season, I could see keying in on that pinch there and leaving this food standing further up and setting the box against that cluster of cedars with a northwest, so that you could pop out of that clump and get out in the dark without blowing the field up. But with all the cedar edge, you can literally move that box around, set it anywhere, and have egress. A lot of options with the cedar trees because you basically got egress from anywhere you need to have it or want to have it.
Yep. First time Bobby and I ever hunted out here, we were sitting shoulder to shoulder against that tree. His son was sleeping in the grass next to us. And 2 long beards come in.
Well, 2, there was like,
3.
how many were gobbling?
Field fills up, and we're like, oh, here he comes, and doubled like first thing in the morning. It was just in the turkeys we were hearing.
That's what I meant, yeah. It was just like a stadium of turkeys, and we're like, what in the world? We thought he was going to come, and then all of a sudden those ones cut up behind us, and then as soon as I could see down in here to the decoys over from that hill, here they came, big white heads, and I'm like, Bobby, wake up, and he's like, I'm like, screw it. I'm like, we're like 1, 2, 3, doubled up, and he did not even flinch when the guns went off. I'm like, dude, you missed it.
We wake him up, he looks out there, he's like, are they dead? Yes, they're dead.
So that is the
But
turkey
then
killing tree.
this year, same thing again. I take my wife, she shoots her first longbeard, and her and I double the same morning. And then she had another tag. I brought her back again, and a huge longbeard came sneaking in quiet. We heard him drumming, but he wouldn't gobble. And he hung up right here where she couldn't get a shot and walked off of it. Pretty much every single time we turkey hunted here, somebody's killing a longbeard or two. Crazy. And this branch right here has got huge scrape under it. This one's all got huge scrape under it. So like this, all this clover in the bottom, it's a big travel corridor because it parallels a creek which is right behind us. But this clover down here is just concentration scent for the does. And these bucks, they just pound through here. All kinds of different bucks during the rut too. It's just a pretty special spot.
Yep. Sexual. Just surrounded by this massive cedar thicket, and that clump of trees right there, you know, is where we talked about either hanging a ladder, or actually I wouldn't use a ladder, I'd use a lock on so you can clear the back of the tree, step into it, you don't have to clear the front in order to, you don't lose your cover. But Toby had a ground blind actually, because you know we don't use a lot of ground blinds, but in that situation, like, it's at the road, you know, so they can't, the road is like 10 yards behind it, so perfect access. You know, this is one of them fields where, like, we fenced it last year when it was beans, and you could leave this, you could segment this fence, and you could you know, force these deer to come into this plot in a way that the whole thing is bow huntable. Open the whole thing up for muzzleloader. I mean, perfect wind. Thermals fall into that road ditch behind you with the west, you know, in the October. Just, I mean, that's scenic.
Yeah, this is another one of those spots. It's like the best spot on this whole 98 acres could end up being 10 yards off the road. And the road is the plus because it's zero intrusion. It's all south facing and southwest facing bedding slope, thicket, high grass, cedars. There's water right here next to green that you can't see. The terrain even funnels deer here because there's a big ditch that comes down through the middle here and it tapers out right here at this pond. So it's like everything points to this spot, and it has perfect access. And we connected a trail all the way from the clover plot in the bottom that we just talked about killing the turkeys in. There's now a road that comes all the way from there through all of these cedar thickets and comes out right here in the corner of the field. So I mean, like, if you look at some of these cedars, they start to get really tight, and sometimes the deer don't want to walk through that stuff when it gets that tight. They'll bed in it, but when they travel, they'll take that path and least resistance through those cedar thickets, and you can pop them out wherever you want them to in all these food plots.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we did.
Yeah, and like a lot of times, farms, you're trying to build cover or whatever, and that takes so much time. This is one of those rare farms that it's here. You actually almost could dismantle it to improve the property. Some of these spots, like what you could do here is take, you know, I would go in there in the winter and find where they're naturally bedding, but it's kind of obvious. It's the areas that are getting more of the south sun. And I'd go in there and I'd mulch a trail, you know, and I'd have it, you know, maybe start here and have this electric fence end here. So they come out of the trail and they go around this fence and boom, they're in bow range. But I'd go in there and literally mulch out a 30-yard circle or 20-yard, like, pockets, and they're going to bed in there because it's a little more, it's going to grow up with, you know, weeds and stuff, and they're going to bed in those open pockets. So you could literally force, in a matter of a few hours with a skid steer, you could force them, you could coax them to bed where you want them to bed, where they kind of naturally want to anyway, which starts the process of how you want them to come to the food. And so it's kind of a unique piece, and we've said it all along, it is the sexiest deer hunting piece we've ever bought.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
And Tristan's back there behind the camera shaking his head yes. It's just beautiful. This place is completely turnkey. It's ready to go for this deer season. So if you're interested in a farm here in Iowa, just reach out to us.
Yep, still enough time to get it bought, closed on, and jump in a tree stand.